What risks do you see in terms of
Yeah.
financial transparency and educational standards? The difference between private school, public schools?
Well, I think we've also been able to look at what's gone on in other voucher programs throughout the country. And by and large, the results in terms of testing outcomes are not improved. And what happens also here, if we went through with what's being proposed, students who choose to take a voucher and go to a private school can also decide to come back into the public school system. And guess what? We educate every student who walks through that door. So if they did not get what they needed in the private school, it's going to be reflected in the accountability ratings of our public schools who are taking those students back in and trying to get them back up to where they need to be. But there are just huge issues, obvious issues, I think, with the transparency and accountability, because we cannot open up their books. And we can, and these proposals are not mandating the same tests for these students. Let me just say, too, about tests. You know, the recent national report card, the NAEP, that came out, there's a lot of controversy around that, too, in terms of how people are interpreting the results of that. And part of the thing we hear a lot at the Capitol is the schools are just not doing what they need to do. The schools are failing our students. Why are we putting more money into these failing schools? TEA itself looked at the latest numbers that came out of the national report card, and yes, indeed, we have some significant challenges. So does the entire country, partially as a result of the pandemic. And then if you look at the fact that we have not, well, going back even to 2011, when we cut public school funding by $5.5 billion, and then jumping ahead to the most recent underfunding, not providing the $4 billion to the schools that we had planned to give them. Those cuts, the lack of funding, the pandemic, of course we're going to have challenges here. Of course we're going to have challenges here. We had students that were not showing up. And now on top of that, we have students who are not showing up because of the immigration stuff going on, who are not showing up to their classrooms. So what I was going to say is TEA, in their summary of what happened with NAEP, shows that Texas, though we have real problems, are doing better than the majority of the other states, even in our minority populations. And I would suggest that means that something's happening right in our public schools. Yes, we have huge issues. We are nowhere near where we need to be, and especially with our lower socioeconomic students, we have got to do a better job. But that being said, relative to the rest of our country, Texas is doing very well. So it's a false claim that our school districts are failing. And that's tied to this voucher argument all the time.